Ricky Starks signed to AEW in 2020 and was seen as a future star from the moment he signed. However, it could be said that Ricky Starks is not being utilised to his full potential, and AEW is currently fumbling him, with many believing that Ricky Starks will be on his way to the WWE when his AEW contract comes up. So today I thought to investigate myself if this is really the case and if Ricky Starks is being wasted away in AEW, so like the video, subscribe, and let's talk about it. Ricky Starks first burst onto the wrestling scene in 2012 but wouldn't get his first bit of decent sized exposure until he started making appearances for the NWA during the first and best season of NWA Power in late 2019 through early 2020. He made an instant impact on fans with his mic work, charisma and smooth ring work, as well as NWA building him up as a star for the future. He'd get over with the NWA fans quick, and after an unsuccessful shot at the national title on the Into the Fire pay-per-view, he would enter a tournament to crown the first ever NWA TV champion. And Ricky Starks would go all the way to win the tournament and become the first TV champion on the January 2020 pay-per-view Hard Times. Fans were happy to see it and it was deserved, but NWA had other plans, I guess, because Starks lost the belt a month later, and when the pandemic kicked in and took the NWA off air, Ricky Starks would depart the NWA, leaving in May of 2020. And the very next month, on the June 17th, 2020 edition of AEW Dynamite, he would make his AEW debut answering Cody Rhodes' TNT title Open Challenge. And he lost this match, but he had a good showing in this match. It was good exposure for him, and he did end up getting signed to the company, becoming All Elite. He'd get going in AEW and soon after his debut would align himself with Brian Cage and Taz to officially form Team Taz, and Team Taz would be on TV pretty much weekly. He'd make his pay-per-view debut at that year's All Out in the Casino Battle Royal, where he was eliminated by Darby Allin, who was in the middle of a feud with Team Taz himself. And for the next few months during this feud, they would face off in various combinations of singles matches and tag matches, with people like Cody Rhodes getting involved on Darby's side and Powerhouse Hobbs joining Team Taz alongside Hook. They'd exchange wins back and forth leading up to the Winter is Coming 2020 Dynamite, which would see the debut of Sting, who would align himself with Darby and join the fight against Team Taz. And this would lead to Sting's first AEW match and return to wrestling, as himself and Darby took on Ricky Starks and Brian Cage in a cinematic street fight match where they fought each other in a rundown building, with Darby and Sting getting the win in a really chaotic match. Tensions would start to build with Brian Cage in the group as he showed respect to Sting, and it led to the Fyter Fest Dynamite in July, where Starks beat Cage for the FTW title after the group turned on Cage and effectively kicked him out of the group. It was his first kind of title win in AEW, and Starks spent the rest of the year carrying the belt and coasting around with Team Taz, who also had a little storyline with Dante Martin and Leo Rush after Dante joined the group for a bit just to double cross them. That was pretty much Starks' story for 2021. 2022 though would see the dissension of Team Taz continue, and this time it was Ricky who was at the helm of it, as on the July 27th Dynamite, Ricky Starks did an open challenge for the FTW title, which was answered by stablemate Hook, who would go on to beat Ricky Starks for the title. And following the match, Ricky Starks would cut an amazing impassioned promo which got the crowd on his side and a great pop from them and turned him face, and this was cemented by Team Taz attacking him after this promo and kicking him out of the group. A match was set between Starks and Hobbs at All Out that Hobbs would shockingly win, as he destroyed Starks in under 5 minutes, but Starks would get his win back in a lights out match at Grand Slam to end the feud. And just like that, Ricky Starks was on his own for the first time in his AEW career, and his pursuit for the world title would begin straight away. Starks would win a world title eliminator tournament, as well as winning the Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal, and would challenge MJF for both the belt and the ring at Winter is Coming 2022, but MJF would come out on top. Going into 2023 though, he'd start feuding with Chris Jericho and the Jericho Appreciation Society. It was another classic Jericho feud in AEW that definitely lasted too long, except in this feud, Jericho never won a match against him, whereas Ricky Starks went over Jericho twice including at Revolution, so at the very least, Jericho didn't win this feud like he usually does. After this, he would jump into a short feud with Juice Robinson and Jay White, but seemed to be kinda stuck in booking limbo, just kinda floating around the roster, not really doing much. But in July of 2023, AEW Collision started, and AEW would enforce a loose roster split, which saw Collision be the main show that you would see Ricky Starks on. He would be a weekly fixture of Collision and one of the top stars of the show at the start of its lifespan, and would feature in the Owen Hart Foundation tournament that year, where he'd make it to the finals, where he would defeat CM Punk in the finals and win the whole thing in easily his biggest AEW win in his career. He would then challenge Punk for the Real World Championship, remember that by the way, in a losing effort, but after the match, he would turn heel once again as he attacked Ricky Steamboat, who was the special guest enforcer, and it seemed like he wasn't done with CM Punk either. He was kayfabe suspended for 28 days due to this attack, but he loopholed it by becoming Big Bill's manager, and when he came back officially, he was booked in a strap match against Bryan Danielson at All Out, which I'm guessing he was supposed to face Punk at this show, but we know what happened. But Starks and Danielson had a match of the night contender in a great match in which Danielson got the win, and after this, Starks and Big Bill would start teaming up more and feuding with the Blackpool Combat Club, and would also end up rising all the way up the tag division themselves to then challenge FTR for the tag belts, which they would win off of them in October 2023. They'd defend the belts through the rest of the year, and whilst they were good champions and were fighting champions for sure, this was during a time where the tag division was being quite neglected and wasn't being booked as the top division like it was back in 2019 to 2021. The tag division was kinda brushed to the side, and they'd hold the belts all the way until the week before Revolution 2024, where they lost them to Darby Allin and Sting. And since then, Ricky Starks has only had one AEW match since, and this was a match in a tag title tournament as him and Big Bill lost to Top Flight. Ricky Starks was actually meant to win this match, but there was a concussion scare in the middle of the match involving Ricky Starks, so AEW protocol was followed, and thus Ricky Starks took the pinfall as they thought he was hurt, but this ended up being a false alarm. So if he didn't get hurt, then why has he vanished off TV since? Well, various reports have gone round that Starks is kind of stuck in creative limbo with no real plans set in place for him. And it was also reported that Starks had turned down creative plans for Big Bill to turn on him and for him to turn back babyface, and if you watch AEW now, you know that Big Bill is doing stuff with Jericho now. And then there was also what I believe was a story from Reddit that for some reason took off about Starks getting into an apparent bar fight and that causing trouble, but it was a complete lie and completely made up, and I mean, no shit. It's a shame AEW can't find a place for Ricky Starks. He's one of the best on their roster in my opinion, and why can't he just be a main guy on Collision like he was before? Why can't they just do that again? And in terms of Starks' entire career in AEW, he's always been presented as a top guy for the most part since leaving Team Taz, and I will acknowledge that he's worked a lot of great top level programs, but there were definitely moments where they could have pulled the trigger on him to maybe win a singles belt, and he's been stuck in booking limbo so many times. And him just vanishing off TV with no explanation, I absolutely just don't get at all. However, many speculate the reason why Starks hasn't received a definitive run in recent years is because many are of the belief that he's going straight to the WWE once his AEW contract is up, and I could definitely see that happening, but at the same time, money talks. Buddy Matthews recently re-signed with AEW, which I never thought he would do, so you never know. But I can't help but think he'd probably do really well and maybe better in the WWE. Anyway, that's all from me discussing the career of Ricky Starks so far in AEW. Would I say that AEW is fumbling him? I probably wouldn't say that, but I will also say they could definitely be doing a little bit more with him than they already have done. Like for starters, the guy isn't even on TV, you can instantly improve on that. Like I said though, that's it from me. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below about what your thoughts are on this whole Ricky Starks in AEW situation and everything involving him. I'll see you all in the future, goodbye, and keep on rolling.